Contarte Historias presents Sherlock, Lupin and Me. The Dark Lady by Irene Adler. Illustrations inspired by the work of Henri Toulouse-Lautrec. Chapter 12. The Black Lady. Can you tell where you've been? Sherlock asked me as soon as I peeked through the bushes around the Ashcroft house. I walked up to him and smiled at him. I was glad to see him, while he looked upset. He came to meet me as if he wanted to trample on me, passed me by, and walked along the path by which I had just come. "Come on, let's go now. Come on, let's go now," I thought, irritated. But who did he think he was? And above all, who did he think he was talking to? William Sherlock Holmes, I exclaimed, standing where I stood. To hear his full name pronounced in that tone of voice must have had the effect I had hoped for he jumped up on his feet and froze suddenly. "Apologize to me right now." "Ha!" he exclaimed. "Apologies? Apologies for what? For making me wait on the wall and then here all morning? But my father has arrived." I justified myself, but I couldn't help feeling a little guilty that I had kept him waiting. And I haven't seen him for a long time. We've gone for a boat ride. And tell me, how could I know? And why should you know? We made a pact, the three of us. A pact? What pact? We're conducting an investigation. A dangerous investigation. Or have you forgotten? But how dare you? You're not my brother. And neither I don't know what I was going to shout at him on that occasion, but the unspoken words served, as if by magic, to stop us from fighting. We realized how much we must have screamed and how close we had come, until we ended up yelling at each other a few inches away from each other in the middle of the bushes. When we noticed, we blinked a couple of times. Then Sherlock narrowed his eyes and said, "Oh, well." And I said, "Anyway, Other embarrassed attempts to explain ourselves followed, made up of sentences that we couldn't finish, such as, "It's just that, maybe I should have, no, maybe it's better, I'm sorry, we're all a little." And then, as luck would have it, Lupin came along. "Great news, ladies and gentlemen," began the third member of our little amateur detective club. We had sat on the ramshackle furniture of the old porch of the Ashcroft house. In front of us we had the sea and behind us the wind whistled in the empty rooms of the mansion. We shared the contents of a paper cone filled with an Italian specialty that my father had brought me from Paris. They were called acolinis, and were like thin sticks of crusty bread, which were eaten by breaking and nibbling on them. "Perhaps we have misestimated the information about that mysterious thief of the roofs," said Lupin, "because last night, it seems, he acted." "Another dead man?" I asked, startling. "No. A robbery." "Oh, yes. And what kind of theft?" "A diamond necklace has been stolen from Madame Martigny," said Lupin. "A necklace of great value," Chief Inspector Fleburg said. "If only you had seen it." He didn't sit still for a moment. "And how do you know?" Sherlock asked. "I heard about it indirectly," Lupin replied, almost holding out his face to me in the bag of breadsticks. "This morning, the inspector showed up at my father's tent too." And then Lupin gave me a long look that made me feel uncomfortable. "To ask you a question." I swallowed. "What kind of consultation?" "An acrobatic consultation," Lupin said with a laugh. "It seems that this mysterious thief, in order to enter Madame Martigny's house, had to come down from the roof, but it is a very steep roof, very dangerous. And it must have been very good, for, it seems, it has left no trace, no marks on the walls or on the roofs nearby, much less on the window." "And was it open?" Sherlock informed himself. It seems so. And what did your father say to him? I asked. The inspector? Lupin shrugged. He said that, in order to enter through that window, the thief must be a real professional and that, therefore, they have no chance of catching him. And then he whispered in my ear that he himself wouldn't have done better. We laughed funny. At the time, none of us, least of all Lupin, knew what his father's real job was. We just thought he was a great tightrope walker, a martial arts expert, a circus performer. Very soon we would discover that it was not just that. And our friend Lupin wouldn't just find out, but would follow in his footsteps and become much more skilled than he. The greatest thief of all time. I'm sorry, I said. In your opinion, the theft of Madame Martigny's diamond necklace and the dead man on the beach are related? I cut a pigtail into 3 pieces and gave them 2, 1 each. Is there anything that unites them? A thief is not a murderer, but... Indeed, it is curious that in a small town like St. Malo 2 such events happen so close together. I'm sure this robbery will muddy the waters, Sherlock observed. The inspector must not only find out what happened to the mysterious man on the beach, but also solve the theft of a diamond necklace. And that Mrs. Martigny, do you know her? Lupin shook his head. Sherlock took from his trousers the little red book he had swiped from the bedside table in Mr. Pousson's room. Have you discovered anything? Lupin asked. Yes, replied my friend. The note we found in his pocket was not written by him. He turned a few pages of the book and showed us a note written in the margin of a page. The handwriting was manifestly different from that of the note. This complicates matters, Lupin murmured, in a tone more fascinated than annoyed. Surely, it complicates the hypothesis of suicide. Why would a man who wants to kill himself have a kind of farewell note found in his pocket, Sherlock wondered, that he didn't write? I couldn't help but think that there really was a connection with the ghostly thief of the rooftops, but I didn't say it out loud. So? I asked with some anxiety. What do we do? The first thing is to return the book to the place where we found it. Then let's go to the Hotel des Artistes, the second one I had a room in, Lupin suggested, taking the book from Sherlock's hands. Is there anything else interesting? A card he used as a bookmark, Sherlock replied, showing it to him. She was a queen of spades. He quickly slipped it into his pocket and added, a clear reference to Madame Martigny. A clear reference? I repeated, stunned. In the village, some people call her the Black Lady, Sherlock explained, because of her habit of wearing only black clothes, as if she were in mourning. I've heard it, Lupin said. And I've also heard that she's married to a fairly wealthy man, who, by the way, prefers his business to his wife, so she's never here, he added. I bit my lip thinking about my family. We sat a little longer in the Ashcroft house, making 1,000 conjectures about the events that were going on around us, with the unconsciousness of that wonderful age. We were very close, 3 inseparable friends. And none of us were still asking too many questions about what was right or wrong to do. We were excited by our own words and burned the hours together animated by an insatiable curiosity. We were cheerful, restless, determined. We gambled with the lives of the people around us with the most inconsiderate recklessness. Maybe because life hadn't yet begun to play with us. What did you think of this Sherlock, Lupin and Irene Adler audiobook? Did you like the ending? Who was your favorite character? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel to not miss the next chapter. The mystery continues.